This is Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Mark Thompson is a huge loser. His show, very bad, weak, soft. But if you're interested in crap and you're a communist, you can go to edge-show.com. I don't recommend it.
You're listening to The Edge with Mark Thompson.
Hi, it's Mark. I'm glad you could be here. John Salley is with us today. He was the first NBA player in history to play on 3 championship-winning franchises and the first player and only one of 2, but he was the first to win a championship in 3 decades. He's played with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. He'll talk about how all of that came to pass. This is a guy who really, thinks through moves and operates strategically. And then you just see the fun in John Salley. He's just light of spirit, I guess might be a way I describe it. Anyway, he has a lifestyle brand which involves cannabis and involves a line of water and all this other stuff. So he's an entrepreneur on top of everything else. But we don't get into that until pretty late in our conversation. Most of the conversation is about John Salley coming up in the house, by the way, with a mother who's a devout Jehovah's Witness, and then his own sort of journey through religion and on to different faiths. Anyway, all of it's in the conversation. I really think you'll enjoy it. It's coming up. J. Elvis Weinstein is with me for the conversation, and Heather Ankeny returns for this conversation with John Salley. So the band's all back together, and John Salley awaits. We do this show without commercial interruption, and as a result, we have to ask you for support just to kind of keep the lights on. Again, if you're going to shop Amazon, we're not saying you have to, but if you're going to, you can do it on our website, edge-show.com. Anywhere it says Amazon, if you click on it, it takes you through. It's the same Amazon as usual, and we don't see what you're buying. A little piece, though, of whatever you spend is spun back off to us. It's a great way to support the show without actually having to reach into your pocket. Some of you have so generously reached into your pocket. Some of you do it on a monthly basis and really support us that way. That's so cool also. Anyway, if that's your jam, man, it's the PayPal link, and you can leave something in our virtual tip jar. I believe that's everything, if it please the court. Let's get started.
This is The Edge.
The advantage, it means.
Hey, look, I just spit on me for no reason.
That's horrible.
Is there some comfort in uncertainty, do you think?
You're a degenerate.
Because Australian Shepherds need action.
Wow. Yeah.
This is The Edge.
That's a self-loathing term that I use.
Oh, got it.
If you enjoy listening to The Edge, support them by subscribing to The Edge on iTunes, Stitcher, and you can listen through the iHeartRadio app. Get busy listening.
We don't have a lot of athletes on this show, do we, Heather?
No.
Josh?
No, true.
And this is an extraordinary athlete.
I appreciate that.
It's true.
True. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, Josh, help me. NBA championships.
4 rings?
I got 4 rings.
3 teams?
3 teams.
And 3 of the teams of the era.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is incredible to me.
Each era.
You've played on legendary teams with legendary players. You guys were legends. It's it's not overhyping it. The guys you played with, and we won't. This is not a sports audience per se, but still, let's kind of try to contextualize it a little bit.
You can't sit around and just generalize your audience.
It's true.
And I have questions.
Yeah.
That is sports related.
Yeah. It's not a sports show per se. I should say
But
that.
we all love sports.
Yeah.
Right.
So
we're American.
The team that drafted you when you were just a young kid, just a young phenom to be.
Right.
That was Detroit? Was that
Detroit
it?
Pistons.
Yeah.
We turned into the bad boys in 1988, and we won 2 championships, 89-90. Swept the Lakers in 1989. Just thought I'd mention. Sure.
And when they called you the bad boys, Dennis Rodman was on that team, right?
Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, Joe Dumas, Rick Mahorn, James Edwards, Johnny Long, Dennis Dembo, Michael Williams.
And why did they call you the bad boys?
Well, because we decided to take on the persona of the Oakland Raiders. They were the bad boys of the football league. You had the Lakers or the Celtics, and they were these premier teams that played against each other all the time. And then we just came out of the middle of the country, hardworking, blue-collar people wanting some gold. So America, the real Americans like that.
It really is true. I mean, Detroit had that, the working class image, and you guys got it done against these sort of blow-dried teams from the coast.
One way of putting it.
Yeah.
Blow-dried. I'm stealing that.
So then what happened? Okay, so you're with that crew, and then...
So then I get smart, and I negotiate a better contract, so I got traded, obviously.
Did you go to Miami?
Yeah, I went to Miami. I'm Hebrew, so that's what us really good Hebrews do. We retire in Miami. And
wow, I didn't know that.
And so
new information early. All right.
Brooklyn Jewish Hospital. Well, don't worry.
All right. I love it.
Wow.
So I then got put on an expansion team. This is the trip. So I'm gonna tell you, and I've said it a couple of times. I go on an expansion team to the Toronto Raptors, and that was the first year. So it was really not a good year for us.
Pre-Vince, yes.
Yeah, and so I convinced the owner at the time, Isaiah Thomas, to release me, and so I bought back my rights. So
wow.
This makes people feel very uncomfortable, but we are in America, a place of awkwardness. So I was the only free slave in the NBA.
And had others done that?
I was going to say, and has
so,
anyone done it since?
Right. So what LeBron does, which people don't get, is he owns his rights. So when he does a 1 year or 2 year deal, whatever the deal is, at the end of it, he decides. And you can't trade him in between him being on that squad because that's in his contract. So smart guys like Carmelo and like Anthony Davis, they are now buying their rights and being a free agent.
Right.
Not before, it's not a free agent. When your contract is up, or they can send you here and there, and no one's untouchable. They traded Doc Rivers from the Boston Celtics' success to the Clippers.
Right.
So it's there's a lot of money too. But
And
people say you wasn't a slave, you got paid. Right. Okay. That's the difference between being a slave in a contract. But at Georgia Tech, where I graduated, they said a contract is one step above being a slave. So I just decided to use it. And
but you were the
it makes people uncomfortable.
You
I
were
like
it. Well, I mean, but there is truth in what you're saying, and you were the first to do it. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Did you settle on a buyout price, or was it your full contract price?
No. So the end of my contract, they were going to owe me six figures, $750,000. So I said, you can keep that.
Okay.
And they were like, you want to pay $750,000, which was a trip because when I did it, I then went to the Bulls. There was no other place for me to go. There was nothing for me to discuss. I was going to the Bulls. And then Jerry Krause called me, and I went there and won a championship with the Great One in 1996. And then I came here to do television. So I was signed to Disney. My literally right down Olive, right down from where we are at Olive and Buena Vista was my office. And I had a late night show. And then they decided, we need a black guy that's more recognizable, so we're going to go with Magic.
Oh, what a disaster that was!
The first time I had subtitles on the television, it was.
Yeah, I mean,
that joke's behind you. You'll find it. I was joking, Magic, but yeah, and it was a trip. I got to learn it wasn't the same, but I was going to make a ton of cash doing TV, and so I go through this depression. And then I just decided I'm just going to stay out here and do what I want to do, television, radio, did podcasts, did a radio show.
I'm so glad I can ask this because Heather's here and she'll bust me on it. So let me ask this question. Heather, would you like to chime
This
in?
is going to have a lot to do with money.
Okay, there you go. All right. So when they moved you out and put Magic in, they still had to pay some kind of kill fee, or could they just get rid of you?
Well, it's called pay or play.
Right.
Which you usually would sign for, but they knew it was crazy. I had just the pilot alone and what we were doing was so new. It was inside of a barbershop. And my pilot was Ed McMahon, Bob Costas, Vanessa Williams, Martin Lawrence, and Magic Johnson.
Wow.
Right.
Whoa.
On my phone calls. So then they were like, hey, if you can book a pilot. And I cleared the rest of the country, like 74% of the country, which was all affiliates. So I was literally doing it different than everyone else. I was network. Fox, but it was syndicated. And the same person that syndicates Wendy Williams now was doing my syndication. So she's making $15-16 million a year because you get 256 checks from each station. And I knew the hustle. I learned the hustle. And then I just stayed out here, man. I'm now filming my own shows. I'm filming a show with my daughter and I, like Anthony Bourdain. It's called Making a Brand. So we're in the cannabis business.
Oh,
Well, you've got a lot of
cool.
stuff.
We're going to get into that.
We're gonna get to it.
I love what you're doing now, and
Thank
you. Your philosophy on the earth and on life, and we'll get into that. But I want to go back because I didn't realize you're a trailblazer in all the ways you clearly are. Like you're a trailblazer in your NBA deal that you just described, and in a sense, you're a trailblazer on the television side when they gave you this show. And it is true. I was saying this to one of you. You're the glib, funny, also good actor and amazing athlete. I mean, you don't find that typically in an NBA player, or somebody who who's got.
Who
the
you
kind of-
find in an NFL player?
No,
I'm
in
joking.
any athlete.
But you could see. I mean, you could see it when you were when you were on the Lakers. You could see that your personality was shining from the end of the bench.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, everyone goes, "You're sitting on the bench." I go, "My job is to make sure Shaq doesn't kill anybody. That's my job here." And you want me to play? You want me to play? When I gotta hold this mammoth in practice is enough. This is like spar practice with Mike Tyson. It was the tough. Shaq
Really?
Shaq. You got to play against him. You lean on him. You hit them like they're going to hit them in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Like you do it all. That's the hardest job. I went to a chiropractor every day. Me and my chiropractor, Dr. Tom Marinara, are like buddies. 20 years of him keeping me standing
I was going
straight.
to ask you about. So go ahead, Josh.
So when you came to the Lakers, when was this because Phil you knew the triangle from Chicago?
Yeah.
And that you could, or did you have a relationship with Shaq, or was
No,
it?
I had a relationship with Phil to the point where I had his phone number. And it was a Montana phone number, so it's the one he's not always at.
Right.
He give you the I'll give you the vacation spot number. Catch me if you can catch me. It's a rotary
It's
phone.
the Zen number.
He's out there with the tribes and whatnot. Yo, I sent smoke signals and everything, brother. You didn't see it? It was sativa. But so what I did I was watching. I was watching in 1999. I was working for NBC in 97, 98. And then I didn't have a job, and I was out here doing, sitcoms and, anything I can get my hands on. And I watched the Laker game, and there was no way that Kobe and Shaq in 1999, the short season, should not win a championship. So I called Phil. I was, "Hey, man, what's up, Phil? What's up, man?" I said, "Hey, man, I'm watching these Lakers. There's no way that you're going to let these two not be legends. Like, what are you going to do?" He goes, "Who you been talking to?" I said, "Yeah, I don't talk to anybody. I just watching it." And I was thinking, well, if Phil was here, these guys would be champions. He was like, "I just negotiated that deal with Jerry West."
Really?
If no one told you. He said, "Nah." And he said, "You in shape?" I said, "I stay in shape. That's my job. And I live 5 doors from Shaq." I said, I was pitching. He said, "Well, go see Jerry West. Call Jerry, and he's going to want to see you at UCLA." I'm living in Brentwood at the time. Next thing you know, I'm running down San Vicente trying to get my body back in shape. I'm eating Oreos, peanut butter and jelly. I'm crying at TV shows, and it just was crazy. But I got my body back in shape. It took me like a year to get my leg strength, but the mental part, because it's mental, it's all mental. I just didn't have the love to destroy the guy in front of me like I used to. The more zen I became, the more vegan I became, the more understanding of life, the less kill I needed. But I needed that kill.
Pistons in 1989.
And so at that point, when you're realizing this and you're doing this, how many years in the league had you been? Like, where is this? Help me.
3 years.
Okay, 3 years.
So I leave Chicago and I have the show show piece. Next thing you know, Disney backs out. They do all this stuff. Buena Vista backs out. Huge mistake. But they back out. And I'm running around. I did Malcolm and Eddie sitcoms. And then I go and I audition for NBC. And I get NBC, so I'm on Sunday. Me, Pete Fassi, and Hannah Storm, one of my favorite 2 people on the planet, because they literally helped me and taught me and showed me while at work. You don't really get that. Mm-hmm. And
I just have to go back 1 second.
Yeah.
Were you on Malcolm and Eddie, you said?
I was on my first
I was a
sitcom.
writer of the first season. On
Oh,
that
really?
Show. Yeah.
Well, that's why we got
Jay
canceled.
Persigian was on that. He came in mid-year.
Yeah, with Jeff Franklin.
Yeah. He came in mid-year.
That was I came in. It was 1997 in the fall.
Yeah, I was there the year before that.
Yeah, so it just turned into I kept making my mind up to do what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it, and then I realized the only person before me, not before me, but had done a lot was Jim Brown, and there was a lot of football players that became pros. My favorite being O.J. Simpson. And I thought when I was growing up, he looked good. Everyone loves him. He smiles all the time. He got these commercials. He just was dapper. And I was like, I'm going to take this personality and put it on television. And that was it. And it's funny. It's real. And everybody thinks like I'm full of it, that I'm always smiling and happy. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I've seen a lot of death in my life. So I smile because I know the alternative. It's people, picking through your stuff, putting you in a bad suit. I don't want that. So,
and how did that play on the Detroit Pistons?
My mentality was, okay, they didn't get us today. Even now, like if something doesn't go exactly as I said, I just say, we just ran out of time today. We got it tomorrow.
I like that.
My mentality.
That's a great philosophy. Yeah.
We didn't lose. We just ran out of time.
Yeah.
It was too dark to keep playing. I get you the ball. Remember, you only beat me by 2. So that mentality. And I took all that sports and all the things I've ever done. My life was Slumdog Millionaire. I just didn't get dumped in doodle. But it mostly, like, things will happen that have literally sharpened the knife for me, or the blade.
But you came from Brooklyn, but you came up, and although you may have seen a lot of things, and it legitimately might have been humble beginnings, you were educated. It seems like you were really goal-directed. You kind of have a strategy, a life strategy. Maybe that life strategy's changed along the way, but you must have had that, from an early age.
Yeah, I was raised a Jehovah Witness, and my mom's in the 50s, they had started integration, and so they had a lottery to move into this neighborhood, and she won. So we were like the second black family in an all-Italian Jewish neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, you won.
Yeah. You have the right to get chased every day. You win the right to learn. So that's why I was born at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital. She was like, we can go anywhere. You going where the Jews go, and you getting that Moyle to do his work on you.
That's great.
And by the time I was born in the 60s, my brothers had already beaten up anybody that would say anything that was out of color. Funny to put it that way. And yeah, I was a reader. My mom's is a reader. My brothers, they were like, there's an old saying that black folks used to say. And they used to say, if you want to hide it from a black man, put it in a book. So my mother made sure that every book that can be in front of me, I was looking for whatever they were hiding. So I never looked at myself as lesser than. I never looked at anybody being greater than. And I just judge people according to their character. I made this comment yesterday. We used to clean house. My mother cleaned house on Fridays in Long Island. That's the rich area of New York, for those who don't know. And these beautiful mansions. So I would vacuum. And then, this is, believe it or not, you had to vacuum the curtains, which I still do to this day, because I tell my daughters, dust goes up too. And
dust goes up.
So I was vacuuming, and my mom said, well, if you want to go swimming, you can go swimming. They're not going to be back until like 3:30. And it's Seder dinner. We're going to have the Seder dinner. My mother was a kosher caterer. So she was like, she wanted to do it all. We kept getting the money. She was hustling.
Oh, my God.
And I was realizing I was butt naked swimming in these people's pool with like looking, they had mounds. And that's why every time I saw Teletubbies, whatever those things are, those mounds, that's what these people had in their grass. And I'm sitting there, and to me, at a 11-year-old kid swimming in a pool butt naked, looking at the mansion, that was my house. It didn't have anything to do, it wasn't my house, because if it wasn't my house, I wouldn't be in the pool.
Sure.
So it was my house, and I never, ever not thought I was going to have that. So as soon as I got it, like I got a house with a pool now, I think I went to it twice just to see if the ducks left anything in it. But I already did it. You don't want to go swimming? I swam when I was 11. I'm not doing it. That's nothing. She made me learn how to ice skate and swim because they said black folks didn't do it. So everything that they ever told my mother black folks don't do, I can do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a trip. I can do. She was particular. When I would speak, it had to be in English, even though I can speak Ebonically, and I can speak in Brooklynese, meaning slang that no one else would know.
Sure.
But she was important. It was very important that when I knocked on the door to tell you I was from the Watchtower Track Society, that I spoke better than the people I was speaking to. And she said it made a difference. It really does. I've been complimented on being articulate for my whole life. You're
Right.
so articulate.
I know that's the. I mean,
But isn't that?
that's like the weirdest
Isn't that not a
compliment. Yeah,
compliment?
right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. That compliment's
Well,
taken.
if you're not,
They don't say it. I want to ask you about Jehovah's Witness just for 2 seconds because I don't think I know.
you can't talk to a Jehovah's Witness for 2 seconds. Have you tried that?
Don't let him in, Mark.
I'll buy it.
I don't even answer the gate. They ring my door. I go, you better get out of here.
Was it something that
Put
you
the cocaine away. Hold on. Who's at the door? Get my gun. Jehovah's Witnesses start running.
was it something that you just had to do because your mom wanted you to go
Yeah.
do that, or did at some point it speak to you and you kind of, when you're a little kid, you don't question, of course, but later did it speak to you? Like, was there any kind of spiritual thing or never?
Yes. So I'm a really good soldier and I'm a really good teammate, but I read. So the difference with what I found, because I would go to the Catholic thing on Wednesday because you get out of school early, and the nuns were nice, and they had all these rituals, and I'd never seen it, so I would watch it. But I read the Bible, and everything I've ever read in the Bible was nowhere in any religion I studied, nowhere. And so I would say that to my mom. So when I got 17, I became a Muslim. And then from being Muslim, this is a trip. I went into Judaism. I went back the other way, as most people would. And so then I started following what Jesus did. And then I went into a little bit of voodoo, well, Santeria. And then I went into Buddhism, Hinduism, Jinn. And then one day I kept thinking, who made all of these? So somebody had to start it.
Right.
And so I said, I'm going to start my own religion. And so I went to the Playboy Mansion to recruit. No, I'm joking.
It's not a bigger leap than
And then half already had altar.
Yeah, it really
It's
is
not
a
a
big
bigger
leap.
leap than Judaism to Santeria. Right?
Well, it's mystical because I was dealing with Kabbalah.
Kabbalah, okay.
And I literally would study it. And then I went to Scientology for 3 years because, I was in Hollywood and I wanted to work in this town. And
I almost did that same thing.
Yeah. But then I was learning things because they were talking mental. And I'm going to say that I'm not spiritual or religious. I'm godly, meaning I don't follow the ways of any male. Whatever God will do or can do, since supposedly they all say the same, we're a mirror image, I try to do things in a godly way, meaning like I didn't understand why the Christians said he was a jealous God or a vengeance God. That'd be a human technique.
Right.
Oh.
And why would God be upset with a human who is made imperfect and human?
Yeah.
So he can't be mad.
Because he sassed him.
Right. Like
Bunch of stuff.
you got what, 7 billion people to worry about. You worry about this little one?
Yeah.
So
I don't believe in God the micromanager either.
yeah, I didn't. So I just said, why don't you just do the things you like to do? Be nice to everybody, be kind, be wonderful, and breathe and enjoy each minute. Like today, why I'm here with Mark is I like him, 1, and you guys, but 2, I count the minutes. And so I understand each minute is important. So I got here at 3:15, and then I went to Whole Foods, stole some stuff, and came over here so they can't. No, I went over. So I got to do it. I count.
It's about the only way you can afford stuff at Whole
I
Foods.
mean, seriously.
You have to be an ex-NBA player to afford
I
stuff.
tried. Well, it's funny. I try to slick them. So when they give you the soup thing, don't put your food in the other thing. Put your food in the soup container.
But don't they open it sometimes?
No, because
I've had it open.
Not if you cover it with soup.
You should
I
then
look shady.
say, I want this for free. Yeah.
I go there all the time too, but I'm just blown away by how expensive everything is. It really is expensive. But it's, when you're vegan, it's a great place because they just have pretty much all these vegan options for so many of us. But we're going to get into the vegan thing in a second. I have a question about how your mom reacted to you going through all the different sort of religious passages.
So she's 95 now. She's been a Jehovah's Witness since 1958. And when I would come back and have questions, because she read the Bible too, and then I would point things out, and she would just shake her head because she would know I was right. And I was like, Ma, not only did I read it in your green Bible, because Jehovah's Witnesses were cool, they made them green, I got about 12 Bibles, and there's a lot of stuff that y'all left out. And I would go through it. And she said, you should go talk to the elders. I go, Ma, they read the same stuff, and they already know is why they drive Cadillacs if we got an Oldsmobile. Borrowed. So you know what I'm saying? Just like I understand the preacher is the one who understands the hustle. And I said, I'd rather be that than to be the sheep. And I went to some churches here. I went to Agape here. I loved it.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, because it was about metaphysics, and that's what only thing we really have is the mental and the physical. So
yeah,
I
Agape is supposed to be spiritual as opposed to religious. I mean, doctrine kind of thing.
I saw a big, like, Hell's Angel dude, a motorcycle guy. I'm not saying Hell's Angels, but the image kicks in.
Right.
He was a motorcycle guy sitting next to this little black girl, and they were sharing the book and singing a song, and they didn't know one another.
No
and I was
way.
like, I need my camera. I need my
that's
camera.
a picture. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Right.
that-
See something, say something. Oh.
Yeah. I was like, are you okay? Give me a signal. And he was like, her mama crazy. Come help me. Oh, you mean the other way? No. Yeah, but that like, I see it. And I see it still. Like other day when I saw you, Mark, going where we were going, I just smiled because somebody goes, what are you doing on Southwest? And I go, do you know that a plane is close to like a ton or 2 tons? Yeah. Aren't you amazed that this plane can get off the air, stay in the air, land, and you over here asking me this dumbass question? I said, if it's Delta, American, whatever, why? She goes, I thought you'd be in first class. I said, I was in the exit row. I had the longest seat.
Yeah. Southwest
I saw you in the exit row, and I thought, thank God he's in the exit row. But even so, it has to be a tight squeeze for him.
No, I do yoga, so I'm so
really,
used
it's
to
not a
manipulating my
hardship.
body.
But also, it's that one on the far side where you get the
the
entire.
long
There's no
piece.
seat in front of you at all.
Yeah.
Right, but you supposedly have to help people if there's an emergency.
Well, yeah, you do say yes.
Yeah, but if you crash, the plane breaks in half. I think people can find their way out.
You can just go.
Some are
"Remember,
already gonna be out."
You died with your celebrity. You're welcome.
That's right.
Follow
My name's
me.
going to be above yours in the article. Yeah.
Sharks don't like dark meat, so you are in trouble.
Your acting thing also, it was a real career. I mean, it is a real career. But I mean, as you began to build that out, it was something that was more than just sort of a dilettantish thing. You really got acting stuff, and you were really relevant in show business for this whole time.
Yeah, I'm on a show now called LA Finest. It's the remake of Bad Boys, but it has Jessica Alba and Gabrielle Union and my boy Dwayne Martin, directed by Anton Cooper, and it is literally on Spectrum. It was NBC's most expensive pilot. It was, I think, $14 million, and then they decided not to go with it, and then Spectrum took it. So we come out in April. And I do the role of Fletcher that I did in Bad Boys, but it went from being in the pilot to we'll try to get you in one show, and now I'm on 8 of them.
Oh,
so
nice.
That's
tomorrow's my last day of shooting, and it's a trip because I look at it like when I go home, I go, I should have done it like this. I said that's when I know I still like to do it. I still love movies. I
Well,
just
you
don't
obviously
watch them.
scored, or you wouldn't have gotten 2 through 8.
Yeah,
No, that's the point. Yeah,
Yeah.
they see you as a valuable.
pretty slick.
I didn't realize Spectrum is who picked that up.
Yeah, Spectrum is becoming a network. This is the show that
It's going to launch.
makes them launch it.
Very cool.
It's a wild thing to see all these networks expanding at a time when audience is just kind of getting attenuated through, so many different platforms.
Right.
But yet these networks, everything from, Netflix is the highest profile example of just throwing development money at all these different shows.
Yeah.
But it's happening on Amazon and Spectrum and Hulu. And I mean, there's all kinds of original programming.
Yeah, and it's in a way it's great. In a way it's great because you don't have to be relegated to, hey, you're black. The people at BET were looking for, you're older. You should go over to CBS because they still, hey, you're a different nationality. You can go to NBC. Now, this is exactly how I was told to do things. In ABC, they ain't going to pick you up unless it's ESPN and unless it's Disney. You got to be like pristine and clean. And I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
So with all these other places,
I'm articulate.
yeah. Hey, that guy over there told me I was articulate. But I had a guy named John Ferreter who was my agent. Great guy.
John. Yeah.
And had a
Now he represents Piers Morgan and
he pushed me more, and Joy Doce when I got here. They pushed me more to keep believing that. She said, you got here, you were right. Now you're in the door, now do it. So I don't have any fear.
That's great. Why can't we get agents like that?
No
Heather?
kidding.
Yeah, no fair. He sat me on, I was a huge fan of Johnny Carson. Ed McMahon did my pilot. He sat me in Johnny's seat.
Wow.
It was Jay's seat at that time, but he sat me in it at NBC and nobody in there. And I was like, boy, agents are powerful.
Why isn't anyone
And he
kicking
said,
him
"Can
out?"
you do this every night?" I said, I did it every night on the other side of that camera, but yeah, I can do it. I just believe I can do it all. And whether you do it well or not do it well, you're still doing it.
Well, I mean, that's the 11-year-old in the pool looking at the house.
Yeah, man.
And what was,
You know?
and when you were the 11-year-old in the pool, what did you see getting you to that house? Did you see basketball getting you there, or did you see more what you're doing now getting you there?
Were you a tall 11-year-old?
No, I didn't grow until I was 15, 16.
Okay, so you weren't like a hoops player when you were 11, particularly.
Yeah.
You were?
I thought I was a point guard. I always said
positions.
I always said I was going to be a pro, and
okay.
I was the worst player in the neighborhood. But I practiced harder than everybody else, and because I had such a restricted schedule, I took it serious when I practiced. I didn't just go play around. Like, I went there to work on my left hand. I went there to work on my backboard shot. I ran my suicides. My mother said, "You can go play, but you got to be back in an hour." And so I would go and get it in. And I realized that every time she would go to sleep when I went outside, I would go play basketball. And I knew that was the way. My brothers were great athletes, football players, and they got scholarships. I knew that was the way to get into college, or a way to get out of the house and not have curfew, which I found that wasn't true because my coach gave me curfew, and we had huge problems with that. But I literally knew at 11 years old that I was going to be a professional athlete, live in Beverly Hills, and drive a Rolls Royce. I was
So it was O.J. Simpson was the thing you were saying.
Yeah. I no longer drive a Rolls Royce. I no longer live in Beverly Hills, but I'm in California.
But you've done it. You've done all that now, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you're an NBA player, and then we're going to move on, but when you're an NBA player and you're going from city to city and you're a huge star, we already discussed it, your championships and all of this fanfare, women are throwing themselves at you.
Really?
Is it hard to maintain kind of the focus?
Schedule?
Yeah, right. What made me think of it is what you're talking about, the curfew. That's what actually made me think of this whole thing. Like, there are a lot of distractions that are built into this athletic model also that I don't know if they're built in, but they fly in the face of staying focused, I would think.
Everybody would think that women were throwing themselves at us. The women that were throwing themselves at us are the same women that throw themselves at all men. It costs $1,500. It's the same ones that come up to you from in Vegas when they're on the slots for like 20 minutes and they start talking to you. Those are the same women that come to us.
Really, they're not NBA groupies who are all over you guys?
No, like there were girls who love NBA players. But if you watch the show Basketball Wives, you realize that those women obviously shared a lot of the same men because that was where they were. And we all live in a fishbowl. So when you live in a fishbowl, you eat what they put in the fishbowl. No pun intended. But that's the mentality. So in that fishbowl, whoever's in there, they wind up swimming around year after year. I sound like Pink Floyd. Swimming
really
year after year doing it. But there are groupies at this point. But this is the thing I always trip. Every time that you would get to a girl that you think, man, I want this one. This is the question. Why you pick me? Why me out of all the women in the world you can want? And I would always say, why are you questioning it? Sure. If I can have all the women, any woman in the world, why are you talking against me having it? And they would always, people would always, I'm an energy person. So if your energy is different, I don't care what color you are. I'm just going to avoid your energy. So if your energy is cool and you're as horny as I am at 25, 26, 27, and we're in the same place, that's how you get down. The fact that I'm a pro ball player just means I'm going to be gone tomorrow. But it's not like a hang around. But like the rock and rollers and the rappers and the singers always have their choice because a certain tone in your voice, a certain note makes people feel good. Right. So, they always get to, more women than anybody else.
It just seems like but as you.
But I was articulate, so I met a lot of people.
Well, you could describe what was going on later.
So can I ask one more basketball question before we go? So I'm curious about just the dynamics of you joined the Bulls. That was the 72 win year, yes?
Yeah, that was.
So
the
you
greatest
joined
team ever.
mid-year basically of that. Yeah,
I got there in February, after Valentine's Day.
That to me is a weird. I mean, what's it like to step into this machine that's already in full rev?
So this is the trip. So I was supposed to be a Bull from jump, and they came to Georgia Tech, and Jerry Krause had told we're going to draft him. They had the number 9 pick. And so I was friends with MJ since I'm 17. I became friends with Scotty because of Horace, because I recruited Horace.
Okay.
And so I always thought I was going to be in Chicago, not Detroit. I go visit Chicago 3 times as a senior after my season. And then the draft comes, and they pick Brad Sellers and from University of Ohio, Ohio State. And I'm on fire. So then 2 picks later, I go to Detroit. And then when I see Jerry Krause, I say, every single time I play you, I'm going to destroy you. I saw Red Auerbach. He told me he was going to make me a Celtic. And my whole life I wanted to be a Celtic. I said, and because I'm from Brooklyn and because they were the best team, everyone asked me, how could you come from Brooklyn? Because I don't celebrate losing teams, Knicks. I just don't. So I told him, I said, every time I come into the Garden, I'm giving you the business.
Right.
So everybody that didn't draft me, I had a personal thing with that place. And that kept my brain, I guess, in the right place. So I can be distracted by women.
I want to talk about what you're building now. You're continuing, as we said, on this show business career. You know, that's going great in all the ways you've described, and you built the empire that you had as an athlete, and that's given you a profile, it's given you money, and all these other things. So you have all these options of stuff you want to do, and you've taken on. This is again outside looking in, so you can just maybe focus this. But I see this guy. You're vegan now, and maybe you can talk for a second about why you decided to do that, and then also you've built this cannabis brand and world as well. That's something that's very important to you. So tell us what's going on, how you made these changes, and what's happening.
Okay, so I'll go backwards. My daughter was I wanted her to go to Boulder because I loved Colorado and the weed is good. And
by the way, have you always smoked weed?
No, I didn't smoke till I was the last month as a Laker. I was 36 years old. I'm 54 now.
How did you smoke for the first time?
We went out and this damsel in distress said, "You got any weed?" And I said, "I'll be right back."
Got a whole pound of it in the trunk.
I said, "You want me to get you weed, lady? Hold on."
No tests in the last month of the season.
I know some Mexicans around here, and so and I literally went and smoked in front of the Capitol building, in front of the Hyatt in Sacramento. We were playing the Sacramento Kings in the playoffs.
No way.
And my right leg became my left leg, and my back wasn't hurting, and my neck was releasing. And I'm doing downward dog, and I'm in warrior pose, doing all kind of things. And then I slept because I don't sleep that well, and I slept till like 10:30. The bus was at 11. 10:45. The bus was at 11. So I ran down, got there like 5 minutes before the bus. You got a 5-minute grace, and I'm smelling like sleep. And I walk on the bus, and I sit down. I hit my teammate. I go, "Yo." He goes, "That's the chronic, Sal. Don't smoke that." I go, "You smoke that every day?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "And you don't have any body pain?" And he goes, "No." I go, "I wasted my whole career taking opioids when I could have just been smoking weed with the guys who were the better players."
Right.
You figured all of that out later. So that's when. Okay. So my daughter was going to school, and then after her first year, she goes, "You're invested in my future, and I appreciate it." Right. So you're going to spend $300,000 just on salary for me to get a job that pays me $40,000 a year. If you're going to invest in my future, let me invest into my future. And so we started the brand. My basketball number is Deuces, 22. She's 22 now. So we started Deuces. This is the old logo. We started Deuces. And I have a millennial 3-language speaking. My daughter's been in French school since, my wife and I made sure that, like my mother, any stereotype she broke. And so I have this millennial who understands that weed is the future. And all the contacts I had, we decided to make a premium cannabis brand. Now, I just heard today, Barney's is about to start selling marijuana.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a whole lifestyle
serious?
brand around cannabis.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In Barney's. And I'm mad it wasn't my brand. So that means I'm at Neiman Marcus.
Is it green grass? Are they calling it green grass?
No, they're calling it Swarovski. So we got into that business. As being a vegan, 1991, I started in microbiotics. My cholesterol was 271. I was 27. I got my first colonic.
Think about that, by the way. Here's a guy, 27. He's an elite athlete, and his cholesterol is still that high.
Yeah. Everything about athletes is wrong how they feed them. The only athlete that they feed properly are thoroughbreds. And the second one are race cars. Besides that, even though basketball players run like a race car or like a thoroughbred, they're fed the worst food that you can possibly put in the body. So when I found out how to work this machine and how to make it an optimal level of food and the most nutritional dense foods I can eat, I'm the same weight I was in 1991. I'm 250 pounds. Well, I'm 244 now. And I was 250. I had more muscle than I do now. But I'm the same weight. And my cholesterol is where it's supposed to be. My prostate is not really in that bad of effect. All men are going to have it. My heart, I've always had a heart problem. I'm a 7-footer. I made sure to keep that clear. Then I became a vegan in 2008. I did a PSA for PETA and by being a vegetarian. And then they explained what a vegan was. And Madeline's Bistro, which was in the Valley, which is one of the greatest chefs ever in veganism. He makes a bacon now that tastes exactly like bacon, Mark Anderson. And
you say that, but it's been 10 years since you had bacon.
Yeah. And so I literally realized every time I was moving forward that I could move this vegan pen because, just to give you an example, as Magic Johnson moved our image about HIV, I felt I could move our image about not eating animals. And the reason because when you see me and I'm 7 foot, besides the sexiness, I'm 7 foot. And you would think that people say, well, you got to eat hearty. Well, I eat like a gorilla. It means green leafy vegetables. I eat like an ox, as much greens as I can possibly eat. I pay attention to where it's coming from, if you have olive oil on it, if you have butter on it. I'm literally about what gas I put inside this unbelievable Ferrari that I've been tinkering with since the 60s. So I think that way. I focus that way. I've been to white communities, black communities, Spanish communities, Asian communities. I've been all over the world. This is the year of return in Africa. And so it's been 400 years since 1619 when the first slaves were into Virginia. So now, and from Ghana. So I'm going back to Ghana in April, and I'm doing a health and wellness. I'm filming it. Health and wellness show to show, one, that's the one I'm getting back. And two, if I come back, we need to get back to eating the way we need to. We need to heal what hurt there was, what pain there was, what resentment, but we also don't need to bring our Western mentality and destroy it with KFC and Carl's Jr. Yeah. And I don't really mean to talk about you fast food places, but we don't need fast death. So, because I love Carl's Jr. because they sell the Beyond Burger. Mm-hmm. That's the reason.
Right. No, that's
exciting.
That's the only reason to go.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. So that's just my mentality is I'm inviting people to go on this ride with me. I used to be a teacher, and then I became a preacher. Now I'm just a sage. I go, here it is. This is the layout. These are the genetics. And just in case everybody goes, well, why is your weed better than everybody else? It's Jacarera. So I went to the #1 weed, got the genetics, and so I literally put a lot of thought into every single piece because there's only minutes on the planet.
God, it's impressive. Yeah, you clearly think everything through that way. I have to say that I just started, talked to Josh about this on the weed thing. I just started, haven't gotten high since college. But again,
he's back, baby.
No, for aches and pains. I got some catching up to do. Yeah. But so I've tried the edibles because I didn't want to smoke because I felt it was tough on my lungs.
Right. But living in Los Angeles is tough on your lungs.
That's true tue. You know. But I thought I was coughing a bit. Anyway, I did the edibles. Like I'm having trouble dialing in. The buzz. If I'm having trouble dialing in the feeling.
Delay. It's a lot of.
So now I've gone back to the
vape,
and now I don't cough as much. It just must mean my lungs are used to it now.
Yeah. So when you cough, when you ingest cannabis, THC, I'm going to use that so people can get used to hearing it. When you ingest the THC, the reason you're coughing is it's literally that's the first time or that part of your lung that is being used, or your body is trying to get other things out. The THC relaxes your lungs when the cough is happening, is so all the other things you're coughing will come out of you. So you literally strengthen, or the first time your lungs get to relax, your body gets to relax, is when you smoke cannabis. The reason, I'm not going to say his name, the swimmer, the one that has all the Olympic medals for America.
And the reputation as a stoner.
Right. Yeah. And Usain Bolt, African, I think you're born with it. They give you a joint when you come in. Literally because it expanded their lungs. They can get air in and out of their body.
I remember that people saying that growing up too.
Yeah.
That because, but they, it was more simplistic. It was just that, because they held it in so much, it made their lungs stronger.
The greatest players I played against were the weed heads,
right? Except
except for Michael Jordan. But everyone else,
he smoked cigars though.
Yeah, right. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like we, but like some of the greatest players I ever played against were when I found out they were big stoners, I was like, this guy was killing me or trying to.
The NBA, because I've also known a couple of NBA players and they've been stoners. I mean, and I wondered about the drug testing program. I mean, can you get away with it, or how do you get away with it?
Well, so they started
test
texting
for years, right?
Yeah, they started
it?
texting when I'm not going to say his name, Chris Webber, got busted bringing weed over from Puerto Rico, and then another player, Mookie Blaylock, was bringing weed into Canada, which is by far the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Not because it's Canada, it's because really good weed is there. Like you should want to get it back.
Really? What are you doing bringing it into there? Okay.
And so the NBA felt they had to have a drug thing. Hey,
is that why everyone hates Chris Webber for real?
But like Al Harrington has a line called Viola, and it's what he helped his grandmother with. And Viola is a beautiful brand. And he interviewed David Stern. Well, he's no longer our commissioner. But David Stern literally was like, yeah, maybe we'll be the first to allow it. It depends on what's the state say and all that. Hey, if you're allowed to drink something with sugar in it, you should be allowed.
Right.
Period, because that's poison.
100%.
And you can get that poison anywhere. You can go and get a packet of it in pink, white, blue, or brown.
Well, and it's inundating you in every
other way. I still think you have
way.
a better argument with alcohol, but if you want to go with sugar, that's okay.
Sugar is the most addictive drug in America.
That's so true. By the way, the NBA is kind of progressive in that they've embraced the gambling thing now a little bit, right? Yeah. And maybe weed as well. I don't understand. The real sadness, as you say, is that these opioids, or even if it's just ibuprofen, which takes its toll on your liver.
Which is an opioid.
Yeah. Is it an opioid? Mm-hmm. You have no other way to fight these pains. I mean, these are legitimate issues that as an athlete, you're dealing with all the time. Why shouldn't you have access to marijuana? It doesn't make any sense.
I didn't understand. And I was on the Best Damn Sports Show. I didn't understand why it was such a thing about steroids in baseball. I said, why? So who cares? And everybody goes, you know what? It's not fair. He's juiced up. And, it's about the records. It's about these records that they have. And they're getting these home runs and just demolishing our view in the records. And I go, well, it used to be racism and alcohol. So it's going to be something. Why not get rid of the racism and alcohol and just have it be steroids? Plus, it wasn't like everybody wasn't doing it, so it wasn't like anything was being messed up. Plus, it's that person's body. Right. If a Hollywood star was doing steroids, he wouldn't get suspended or get arrested or do whatever. I just didn't understand why they were doing it, and it was because they couldn't control it. What the control was, if you do steroids, you last longer. And they want you to be in and out. They want you 5 years, 7 years. Oh. They don't want you Tom Brady in this league. We can't sell that. That's why there's only one Tom Brady. The rest of them are gone. You saw what they did to Brett Favre. They were like, all right, you're too old. Get out. Well, I can still play. We don't care. We can't market you. We got to market Aaron Rodgers. So it's still a show. It's another thing. Pro athletes don't realize it's a show. It's a show. It starts at 7:30, ends at 9:30. Just like Broadway.
But it seems like the bad boy Detroit Pistons did kind of know it was a show.
Yeah. We knew it was a show, and we would show up and smile just so you can see our fangs. And we were the first team with private jet, too. So we would go in, play, and go home. So we had less children outside of our spouses and less drug problems. We had 1 or 2, but we had less than it would have been if we
always
still
left after the game.
Yeah, we left after the game. I used to tell girls, I'm here for a reason, not a season. So I got to go. Let's get it done.
We had Tom Arnold on just last week, and he was
Love
talking. He was saying lovely things about you also, about that show, Best Damn Sports Show. That was on.
We're 10 years ahead of ourselves.
Was that Leanne?
Yeah, Leanne Tweed.
Yeah.
And now everybody, as you say, everybody's doing a version of it now. These talk shows about sports, but you guys didn't just do sports.
It's a sports format now, essentially.
It's a sport, but we did comedy. And the best thing about Tom is they wanted us to dress up, and Tom says, when have you worn a suit and talked technical about sport? Only in the old boys club is that happening with the green leather seats and the cigars and no women allowed, which is, and I'm not homophobic at all, but I just always said, we need more women here. I would constantly say that. I said, why there's no women here? It's, man, it's a man's game, it's sports. I go, but when I'm playing, there's a lot of women in the stands. Like, they must really like this game. And I said, why are there so many women at this game? And Isaiah Thomas said, you're clueless, Sal. I said, they are dressed to the nines. Oh. And he said, we do aerobics in shorts for 2 hours. I said, oh, okay. So we even looked at it entirely different than most people looked at it. Like I never looked at it as being a groupie. I just said, if I have a daughter, I have, daughters, do I want them with somebody athletic that, you think could make you another grandkid that can play like LeBron, or do you want the guy at the gas station with
or do you want me?
nails?
So you can just say, do you want me?
Josh, I wasn't going to say that, but I was thinking. No.
If you're drawing it up, you wouldn't be part of the play. No.
Are they interested in athletes?
Yeah.
Do they gravitate that way? Yeah.
No.
But matter of fact, they all like short football players.
Really?
Yeah, except for my tall daughter. She wants a guy from the Netherlands so she can have 2 passports. Not caring of color. She said, I want him 6'10" with a job.
How tall are your girls?
6'2" and 5'10" and 5'7".
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, but the 15-year-old goes, I want to stop right here. I was like, good luck, chick. I said that too. I said, I stop at 6'10", and my body was like, no, take a nap.
I wanted to stop at point guard.
Yeah.
Was there a point where you said, hey, I just don't want to get any taller?
No, I used to go to sleep, take these naps, and my mother, we talked about the heart thing, but my mom took me into the doctor. She goes, he's grown. I grew 4 inches in one summer. From June until September.
Wow.
My feet, my back, my arms, my shoulders, my neck, everything was bought, and I was sleepy I was sleeping 12, 13 hours a day. And that's when your body was growing. So it was like I was lazy, but I wasn't. So she was giving me bee pollen, Tupelo honey, like all everything she can possibly remember to give me for my aches and pains, sleeping and going to taking Epsom salt baths. Massaging me.
Here, smoke these cigarettes.
Yeah. You know what? Just take some Camels.
Well, where can people find information on your brands and some of the stuff that you're talking about? It's kind of almost a lifestyle brand that you're building out.
Yeah. So you go to JohnSalley, SALLEY.com. And I got a new product I was going to bring it to you. It's called Better Belly. Oh, I should it's always good to give it to women first because women have usually spastic colons. But it forces you to drink. It doesn't force you. I get you to drink a certain amount of money and give you these herbs and mushrooms, and it clears out parasites and removes. It makes you regular, and the more regular you are, usually means you're hydrated. And the more hydrated you are, the less wrinkles you can get. The less wrinkles you can get, the less chance of your body expiring on its own. That's a nice way of saying you take my product, you live longer.
And the formula that goes into that, you just described a little bit of it. How did you come up with that?
I went to this. So I was into, since 91, I've been into Chinese medicine. That's how I first got into this. And then I went to Koreatown, and this guy named Dr. Howard Young is like 86 now, and he's made this product for 40 years. And when people get sick in Koreatown, they go to Howard. They don't go to the hospital. And Howard has given them this, clean out your low intestines. That's where all disease starts. Clean it out, clean it out, clean it out. So he was about to retire with his 40-year-old wife. And so I bought it. And I was like, I'm going to change the name of it because I have to rebrand it. But it was a product that has literally no Casa Sagrada in it. So you're not going to sit down and go, I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, never mind. I already went. It's not that kind of thing.
That's good.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
And then I got enzymes. I just put out systemic enzymes, digestive enzymes, and one called Flora One. Now, I realized I have been designing all the products I'm putting out for my wife and kids because I live in a house of women. So I'm trying to keep them as calm as possible. Because let me tell you, Mark, Josh, the flow of energy can change in a second.
It's true.
Oh.
It's true.
You just never know what you're getting sometimes, right?
But you should know. So if you have a young child, this right here is going to get people to call you and curse me out on my Instagram. There's an app called Flow. And literally when my 15-year-old turned 15, and what I mean by that is she turned 15, she turned into a teenager, and then it became rebellious and talk back and sneak out, all the things that you do at 15. I then checked her flow. And I would know when she was ovulating. I would know when she was on her period. And my other daughters think I'm invasion of privacy. I go, you live in my house. I'm not invasion in privacy. I have to know what alien you're going to be today. And it literally helped me because I realized that women have 400 trillion more emotions than we do. Women, we have more serotonin. We need to be patted on the back, but they need it to be appreciated and observed. And so I realized different way of dealing with women, especially the ones that were living in my house. And I pay attention to the time of year, whether it's hot or cold, if it's too hot in the house, if there's anything, if they're not eating certain ways. I now change all of our water to better water, BETTA, better eating today, tomorrow, always, in case you want to know what it better.
Is that right? And where does that water come from?
It's a better water because I'm in the beverage business doing wine first, and I got a cannabis. So the water is distilled, and I've done all and as much research for the past 12 years as possible. I don't drink. I barely shower in our water. Like I get wet. I soap up like I'm in Japan. I get all soapy, and then I rinse off, and then I soap up, and then I rinse off. There's no sitting in there like you do.
Because
the water's terrible in California.
It's terrible how?
So New York Times put out that we had the worst water in the country. Now, that was in the New York Times, not the LA Times.
Right.
If we got the worst water, what's happening in Flint?
Mm-hmm.
If our water is worse than Flint,
right?
And I said, I didn't want that. And then I started seeing the changes. Every time you give it to an animal, they seem to get old and get all the human diseases. So when I realized, well, what are the Navy? If you're out at sea for 60 days, they can't fill the thing up with water. In the Navy, which veterans live longer than the rest, supposedly, I'm just going on what they say, they drink distilled water for 6 months, 7 months at a time. There's been some trainers back in the 70s and 80s would only give their baseball players distilled water so they wouldn't get shoulder pains and it would move through. So the alkaline thing is total, to me, malarkey. And the different, like spring water has, I would say, has minerals in it that
Lots
are
of minerals.
inorganic.
I just have this memory of a science teacher telling me how drinking distilled water is bad and makes cells explode and stuff.
Yeah, so if you got to clean any machine with water, you use distilled water.
Right.
So this is the ultimate machine. This machine is so ultimate, it created a computer. So if I know that this is the ultimate machine and I want it clean, I'm going to give it water that's at a point of having nothing. And then when it goes in, any toxic thing goes away with it. Do you know the soap? This is a crazy question. Do you think soap can be dirty? A bar of soap?
I wouldn't think so, no.
I would say yes.
Right. I would too, right? But what it does, it attracts positive ions. So it takes the dirt off your hands or off your body by attracting it. But when it attracts it, it never joins it. It just stays on the top of it. So that's why you can take water and rinse it and dirt come off it. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. Well, then I realized that's what water does inside your body. All of the bad things jump onto the flow, and now it becomes that while it's leaving your body.
Oh, wow.
We could be here for hours, bro.
No, that's great. But so the water is...
I'd like to bring a scientist in, but...
Yeah, we can.
It's true.
So the water's called, it's Beta water? Is that
Better,
right?
yeah. So it's all coming out. I just took the pictures for Better Belly is the first product. It's mainly because the people helping me put it together said you should start with one product. And you get that one product, and you get I got everything, but you get your packaging and your shipping and people used to it, then you introduce the next thing. So
and that's by Deuces?
Yeah, no, that's by Better.
That's a separate company.
Yeah, that's the vegan. I also got the vegan cheese. If you go to 365 Vegan Cheese, that's a cheese that I work with getting inside.
Wow, that's great. I eat like 50 pounds of vegan cheese a week.
Yeah, but this one is made out of coconut from Greece, and it melts like mozzarella. And that was the biggest thing for me being a vegan. I'm a New Yorker, and I love New York pizza. I would cross the street. That's how weak I was. I would cross the street when I first started.
Yeah.
And the reason I wouldn't cheat is because at 40, I decided never to lie again. And at 50, when I stopped lying, I just didn't want to be a liar and say I'm a vegan, but I'm having this.
Right.
Look, I love all the stuff you're working on, and you're so gracious with people. I saw you at the airport that day when I saw you taking pictures, and after that flight, you got other stuff you want to do, but you're there taking photos and talking to people. It was more than just a perfunctory thing. You were really quite nice, and I just think it's great the way you connect with people and are connecting with the earth. So really glad you came
Moments
by,
in
John
time,
Salley.
brother.
Yeah.
We only got minutes, so don't waste them being an asshole.
We're gonna post a link to. We're gonna post a link to. Yes, Josh. Don't waste it.
Hey, come on.
We'll post a link to John Salley's stuff on our website, edge-show.com. Thanks, John Salley.
Thank you, brother.
Love it.
Really great to hang out with John Salley and, of course, to have Heather along for the ride and Jay Elvis. Really cool. If you like this episode, recommend it to others. Subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher, on iHeartRadio, everywhere you can. That helps keep us higher in the iTunes queue and in the podcast universe. Again, thanks for all your support. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hi, how are you? I want to thank you for supporting Mark Thompson here on the Edge Radio. Fantastic show with all the jokes and Jay Elvis, and all the commentary and the politics and the bullshit. You can listen to this little pageant on iTunes or Stitcher. The hell is that, Overcast? Or you can just go to the damn website, edge-show.com. Stupid. Why is that dash? edge-show.com.
edge-show.com.